listening to the Unleash Greatness podcast with your host, Jonathan Mitchell. The best in personal, emotional, spiritual, and business development.
Well, hello everyone. It is I, Jonathan Mitchell, and today is Spiel Day Friday. So if you haven't listened in to the rest of the week, please do so. I'm going to review the rest of the week here in a second, but before I get into it, today is Spiel Day. I got to talk about some subjects that I just love to talk about. This episode is sponsored by naturalmedicinemamas.com. If you are into natural or alternative medicine for help around anxiety or stress or colds or whatever else you might need to have, they have amazing products for men, women, and children there at naturalmedicinemamas.com. So please check them out. They have some amazing stuff. For more information, coaching, podcasts, whatever information you want to have from myself, go to unleashg.com. That's unleash.g.com. You can find me on all the Twitters and Instagrams and Stitcher and iTunes and all over the place. Subscribe, share it. Please let me know. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you so much for listening, and let's get going. All right, everyone. So we've had an amazing week. This week, I'm going to shortly review and then get in today's Spiel Day. So if you haven't tuned in, go back and listen to Sean Douglas. He's my guest on Monday. Did some amazing stories with what he does, with his passion, and was super vulnerable with his own story about recovering from a suicide attempt. Amazing, amazing guy. So glad he came on board. He's doing some incredible work with entrepreneurs, and he's, as you can tell, very energetic and positive. He's awesome. On Tuesday, we went over the MBA Musings, which was about finances, and I should say my classes with economics and finances. On Wednesday, went over the Leadership and Self-Deception book, which is one of my favorites for the book review. Yesterday, I went over the article, which is 8 Surprising Ways to Become a Millionaire. And then today is Spiel Day. I got to talk about one of my favorite subjects, which is that of tuning into the life that you are wanting to have. So before I get into this, please let me start off with a quick little caveat before I get into this. Please understand that what I'm about to talk about is more about your energy and your mindset. You need to have several things in order to have success. Work's going to come into it. How you network and how you behave with other people. Your interpersonal skills is going to come into it. Your own knowledge and skill base and how you apply yourself is going to come into it. What I'm about to talk about is step 1 of many steps. So please don't feel like what I'm about to tell you is the only thing you need to do to have success. But this is a very key, crucial part that will make your life so much easier when it comes to trying to have, or I shouldn't say trying, when it comes to achieving success in your life. This is going to help you be able to have that in your life a lot more flowing and a lot more easily and fluid into your life instead of you feeling like you're pushing through it. So I'm going to start off by telling you a quick story about one of my coaching clients up in Idaho when I used to live up there. So I had a single friend who was a single mom of 4 kids, was married before, went through a nasty divorce, and so she was working full-time and fully supporting her kids, had no help from the ex, and so she was just taking care of everything by herself. And we were in we met in the single scene. We became really good friends, talked a lot, and she was just a good friend I could be real with and just loved having conversations with her. And after a little while of knowing her, she came to me and she said, I am not finding the type of guy I'd want to have. Like, it seems like every guy I go out with either just wants to make out or gets scared off because I have 4 kids or has some sort of issue that is not what I'm looking for. It's not what I'm wanting to have in my life. Like, I want to have someone I can partner with and be with. And so she knew I was a coach and said, would you mind, give me some feedback? How can I shift this? What do I do to change this? And so she lived in a small town in Idaho that didn't have the biggest single scene in the world, but she kept tuning into, attracting, whatever you want to call it, the type of people that was wrong for her. And what I told her was what I'm about to tell you. And before I get into that, I'm gonna back off 1 second and tell you how I feel about the law of attraction. So I love The Secret. I love the law of attraction. I love all things that have to do with that. But from my standpoint as a musician, I don't believe that we attract things to us. I believe that we tune into things. And what I mean is like, as an example, is a radio. What I told this friend of mine before I went into telling her what I thought she should do is I just said, when you think about a radio station, like if I brought into your house right now, I know most people don't use radios anymore because we're all MP3 players, but back in the day when we have radios, if I was to bring a radio boombox into my room right now and I turn it on to AM, FM, whatever, and I tune into a channel, it went from the static type noise to music, what exactly happens in that scenario? Is the radio attracting the music or the station or the frequency? The answer is no. Is the radio creating the actual music? The answer is, again, no. Is the radio, like, what is the radio exactly doing? If it's not attracting the music, if it's not creating the music, what is it doing? And the point that I want to come across, that I want you to listen to, that is the biggest thing, that was the biggest aha for myself when I learned this, was that the radio, all it does is tune into a frequency that was already in existence. All it had to do was tune into it. And so I compared this same thinking with my friend with dating. And I said, listen, you are tuning into 98.5, I don't want to say country, but 98.5 music, which in your world, what that means is the same type of guy. And so all you're tuned into, you get emotional about it, which means, again, emotion equals energy in motion, right? So what you get emotional about, you can find out whether it's good emotion or bad emotion. What you get emotional about is where your energy is flowing into, and that's what you're feeding, right? So if you're getting emotional in a negative way about all the guys who are treating you bad and just want to make out with you and not have a serious relationship, or the guys who don't want to be with you because you have 4 kids, like, you're getting emotional about it. So you continue to tune into and you stay tuned into 98.5, the wrong guy for you frequency station. If you want to change and to level up and go to 101.5, the ideal guy for you, you have to shift your energy and your emotions to get up there. So what I had her do is two things. Number one was give herself permission to be frustrated at the time she was frustrated. So I said, if you have a frustrating date, allow yourself 30 minutes to be frustrated. Don't stuff that down. Let yourself be frustrated 30 minutes and then move forward. And then what I want you to do is I want you to pretend, and you out there, whether you're listening or not, if you're Christian or not, or believe in God or not, I do. And one thing I tell people is, like, I don't care if you believe in God or not. I want you just to think about this for a second. Let's just say that you had a prayer. And a year from now, and this is what I told her, let's just imagine that a year from now, you're going into your house, you kneel down next to your bed, next to your nice brand new husband, and in your prayer, you say in that prayer all the things you're so grateful for in your life at that point, in your ideal life, 1 year from today. So with her, it'd be like her kids were safe and that they were happy, that the guy next to her was a loving husband who loved her and her kids, that fulfilled all of her needs, whether it's sexual, physical, financial, emotional, all of her needs were being met. They clicked, they had fun, and so she, in her mind, as we kind of moved forward in that view, thinking 1 year from today, if I was living my ideal life, what would my prayer of thanks be in that moment? So instead of her writing down saying, I am going to be grateful for, in other words, instead of her thinking, in 1 year, I'm grateful for this, I started having her feel the feelings of gratitude as if it was already happening. So I said, okay, you need to just start thinking about how would you feel in the same moment when you're giving that prayer and you have the guy next to you holding your hand, saying this prayer. How would it feel? And she said, it feels good. I'm like, and I started to say, okay, great. Where in your body do you feel that feeling good? And with her, it was her heart, which most people in this coaching, that's where they feel it, is in their heart. And I said, that is the feeling you want to focus on. So even after you have a frustrating date, give yourself 30 minutes to be frustrated, and then get off that frustrated horse and get on the gratitude one, where you read over this prayer. Like I always had her write down her prayer so she could read it later. And then she got herself tuned back into the emotion of gratitude for the future and the husband that she wanted to have. So this was like, I can't remember what year it was. I think it was 2008. And I said, all I want you to do is just focus on this. And I said, this is not going to happen overnight, but it will happen. Just like having a baby, the closer you get to being pregnant and the closer you get to the 9-month mark, the closer you are to being able to have the baby to birth. And I know, I'm a guy, so I have no idea what it's like to be pregnant, but I've heard that women say that the farther along you get, it feels like you're pregnant forever and you're never ever going to be done being pregnant, but all of a sudden you have birth and it's over with and it's done, right? So there is an end point. You're not going to be feeling this way forever. So I had her give this challenge. She wrote down her prayer, was very specific, and I said, all I want you to do is to focus on what is right. Don't say, well, it could be kind of okay. I want to say, I want to know what your ideal life looks like and then be grateful for your ideal life. So she wrote it all down. I reviewed the thing with her, just making sure it was all positive and grateful and felt good. And as soon as we got it to where we wanted it to be, she started to feel and to read that letter of prayer every single day. And within a month, she started to see a difference in the guys that she was attracting. So please know that anyone out there who's single, if you want to go out and play, have fun, make out, do whatever, that's fine. Like, it's all about whatever works for you. But for her, she was looking for someone who wanted to be with her and her kids and be happy. Like, she had a very specific man or personality or feeling in mind for this guy. So she started to notice the difference in the people that she was attracting. And one key thing with this is that you have to understand when tuning in, just like a radio, how you go from a clear sound of music to static and all of a sudden you come into a clear sound of music again, you do that same thing when you tune in. So I always tell people when you start tuning out of the old frequency, like when you go from 98.5 old frequency to 101.5 new frequency, in between that, there's a space of static where you're not sure if you're getting the result you're wanting to get because you don't hear any music. And it's just kind of like, what's going on? And you have this feelings of anxiety and insecurity, and you're thinking, why am I doing this? And all that stuff. In those times, that is just like when you have to think about being pregnant. Again, for you guys, I'm sorry, but just like being pregnant, the longer you're pregnant, the closer you are to having birth. Same thing with this. The longer you hold the feeling of gratitude, the closer you are to experiencing the result. So with her, I just said, okay, keep going, keep feeling this way. And there comes a point where there's going to be a place where in your soul, in your body, your subconscious belief systems are going to come at you hard and really ask you the question saying, are you sure you're going to believe this new paradigm you're trying to, get your subconscious to dive into? Because for years, if you think to yourself, 98.5 guys who don't want to be with me is your existence, you're going to have a point where you're going to have this battle where you have a choice in your subconscious, and you'll know this choice by saying, you'll have all these fears come up. Like, am I sure this is right? Am I ever going to be worthy of this? Like, all your crap will come up to get you in the way of what you want to experience. When that time comes, you are almost there. That is literally at the gates of your blessing. When you feel that feeling of, oh my gosh, I'm not sure if I can do this, that's when you charge ahead and you continue on just being grateful and tuning in. So going back to the story of this friend of mine, she did this for, I gave her a year to do this. I said, I'll give you a challenge. I want you to commit to me to do this for a year. And if you don't do it for a year, at least do it for 30 days and see what happens within the month. She's like, okay, I'll do that. So within 30 days, she started to see a difference between the men she was attracting. Within 3 or 4 months, she was kind of like, I'm not sure if this is working or not. And she wasn't sure if she wanted to keep doing it by the 3 or 4 month mark. And I just said, just keep going. By month 4 to 5, she met this guy who moved into the city. He had no idea why he moved there. He just felt like it was the right thing to do, had a job opportunity, and he moved in. He was a single guy. He was in a place where he didn't want to play games and dating. He wanted to find someone. He dated someone serious before and wanted to have kids because he was a little bit older. He could still have kids, but he wanted to kind of start with someone who had kids, and which was funny because this friend of mine was convinced that no man out there would want to have a woman with kids. And yet this guy was looking specifically for a woman with kids, which is kind of funny. Again, it shows that sometimes your beliefs are so off, but you will experience what you believe, and I'll talk about that in a second. So she met this guy who moved into town. They started dating and courting and just clicked right off the bat, and he treated her well and all this other stuff. And you guessed it, within by the year mark, they were engaged. And shortly after the year mark from when I asked her to start making this prayer and to repeat this gratitude statement, they got married. I keep in touch with her all the time saying, hey, how you guys doing? And I just texted her here a couple months ago. I think they had a kid together. They've been married now for almost over 10 years. And they're doing great. And she's so happy. And she always tells people, like, this is what I did to have this result. And she even tells me all the time, I did not believe this would ever be an option for me. I thought I was going to be doomed to be a single mom of 4 kids and no one would ever want me. That was her reality. And she literally thought, I don't know if this gratitude thing is going to work, but she was willing to try it. So my point is I want you to think about with yourself, what are you wanting to accomplish? I don't care what it is, whether it's relationships, having a successful business, if you're experiencing some sort of sickness that you, like with cancer or anything that's major with health, if it's money, whatever the case is, I want you to put yourself out there. Give yourself a timeline where you think realistically something could happen. So like my friend, I told her, how early do you think this person can come in and you guys can start dating and get married? She's like, probably a year. I'll give it a year. So for her, it was a year. Maybe for you, it's 5 years. Maybe it's 6 months. Maybe it's 2 months. It doesn't matter. It depends on what you think is actually realistic. So again, as an example, if someone wants to say, I want to be a millionaire in 30 days, great goal. If you have no plan or any idea how to do that, I seriously doubt it's going to happen. I'm not saying it's impossible. It probably can happen. But if in your mind, if you take a goal like that and you say, I'm going to be a millionaire in 30 days, in the back of your mind, there's a little voice that says that's never, ever, ever going to happen. More than likely, it's not realistic for you. But if you say in your mind, I'm going to be a millionaire in 2 years or 1 year or 6 months, whatever the time is, and if you're back of your mind, you hear this voice saying, yeah, that could happen. I don't know how, but it could happen. When you have that feeling of, yeah, that could happen, but I'm not sure how, that is a realistic time frame. And more likely than not, the blessing will come sooner than the time frame you've given yourself. But just give yourself that time frame so you don't have that nagging voice in the back of your head that will just give you all sorts of grief for putting a timeline that's too soon. You got to be patient. So find that timeline and then identify, let's just say a year from now, what day is it today? So it's right after Valentine's. So let's just say in a relationship. If you're experiencing not having the relationship you want, whether you're married or not, or single or not, or whatever, imagine yourself a year from now, next Valentine's, being totally complete and happy inside of a relationship that's healthy, that fulfills you, that you fulfill them, that's everything you wanted to have. Identify that. Imagine yourself saying a prayer of thanks of how that feels, and then recognize in your body where you feel that feeling of gratitude, saying, this is the best I've ever thought I ever could have. And focus on that feeling as much as possible, especially when you have the doubts start to creep in and going, I'm not sure this is working, or when you think this is stupid or whatever. Same with money. If you experience hardships with money, which I have to be honest with you from my personal standpoint, a few years ago, a long time ago, about 10 years ago, actually, there's a week where I slept in my car because I didn't have anywhere to stay. And, now I'm on a totally different path where I'm earning great money and moving forward, have a lot of success. And I think about that all the time of where I was 10 years ago versus now. And I know it's possible for anybody to change their fortune based on how they think, how they work, and what they're willing to do to get there. So again, your goal is to pick a realistic time frame. Write down a prayer of gratitude in present tense as if you were there a year from now, imagining listening to yourself in the future, saying, I'm so grateful for being successful with money, or how it would feel to be successful with money. How would it feel to have $1 million in the bank, knowing that you have succeeded in your business, in your job, in whatever? Just how does that feel to have the success, to be past the wall and actually experience the success? How would it feel to have the relationship you want to have when you're past the wall of all this dating crap and you finally have the experience you want? Or maybe your marriage is on the rocks and you want to have it be better. How would it feel to have a marriage that is better and everything you want it to have? Tune into what you want to have. Write that prayer of thanks down in present form, saying, I am so grateful that this marriage is everything I wanted to be. I'm so grateful. I'm experiencing all this abundance of wealth and money. I'm so grateful that I have this job, I have this business, I have this career, I have this whatever that fulfills me and that I love to do every single day. Find what that is, write it down, and then review that sucker every single day. Make sure you feel that feeling every day. Don't allow doubt to creep in. Don't allow anything else to creep in. When you have things come up, I'll back up for a second. If you have doubt or frustration or anything else come up, just like with this girl that was a friend of mine, when she had feelings of thoughts of frustration, give yourself the space of 30 minutes to be frustrated or to have doubt or to be scared. Write it down, get it out of your system, and then go back to focusing on the gratitude. Promise, if you take on this challenge within, whatever time frame you're thinking, within the first half of this year, you'll have a totally different result in your life at the end of 2019 than you ever could have imagined. I did this with my first music album, where I imagined in my hand looking at the music album that I had of music that I created in a professional level. And when I finally had the album and I had it in my hands, I experienced what I created in my mind a year before that. Actually, it was about 6 months before that. But when I did this with my own CD, this is one example of many I could give you, but I did this with my first album back in 2000. When did I do my first album? 2008, 2007. A year before that, I said a year from now when I have an album of all this music that I've created. Within 6 to 9 months of me doing that goal, I had the album in hand already done. When I started that goal, I had no music. I had nowhere to record. I had no idea what I was doing. But I set the goal, and I felt the feelings of gratitude every single day. And as I did that, music came to me, resources came to me, people came to me. I started to tune into different people, and I created, recorded, had the money for it, and everything within a year, within actually 6 to 9 months. Where when I made the goal, I didn't have the resources, I didn't have the money, I didn't have the music, I didn't have the contacts, I didn't have anything. And all of a sudden it just started to create itself. It manifested, and I tuned into the resources that were already in existence. That exact same thing can happen to you. I don't care if you have the money or not. I don't care if you see a way or not. I don't care if you see the path. Your job is to believe and to feel the gratitude. Trust me, you will tune into a higher level of frequency than you ever have in your life if you give yourself permission and just a chance to just play the game and just try. Let me know what you think. UnleashG.com, Unleash Greatness. This is I, Jonathan Mitchell. Have an amazing day. We'll talk to you here next week.